This episode was recorded in front of a live stream audience. Join me at gaming.youtube.com/the Jessa Channel. Hey there. You're watching the Jessa Channel live on YouTube, Twitch, Mixer, and Steam. And today is Saturday, October 13th, 2018. And we are playing Lamplight City with the developer, Francisco González. And I am Jessa. Hello, everyone. Hi. Yay. Yay. Hello, CO. Hello, Velest. I think I saw somebody else come in. I see some people over on Steam watching. Feel free to say hello. I know that, Velest. I know. Hello, Leah. Hello, Matt. I know, Velest. I told them last night. I told them again. And they told me their engineers would work on it. And I told Francisco, so we're just going to have to deal with it. So, I am Jessa from the Jessa Channel. If you're watching on Steam, hello. We are playing Lamplight City today, obviously, or we wouldn't be on their page. And we're going to have a special guest with us today. Some of you have met him before, and you're going to be meeting him again today. I see him there waiting for his introduction. He's like fluffing up his hair, making sure it looks pretty. Okay, he isn't. But I'm going to introduce him now. This is the creator of the game that we are playing, Lamplight City, the sole developer of the game. This game released exactly 1 month ago today, on October, let's try that again. Let's try dates. September 13th, and today's October 13th. On Steam. If you have not yet got your copy, I highly recommend that you get yours. You can buy it just down below. It's also on sale today on the Humble Bundle. If a mod can throw... Thank you, CO. If a mod could throw a link into chat, I would appreciate it. We have Velest, who's here today taking care of things. Hug pile your mods. But now, let's introduce Francisco González. Hello, Francisco. Whoops.
Whoops. Oh,
yeah,
oh.
Whoops. Okay, I did so much, and yet this dev cam has been driving me crazy. Let me just go ahead and quickly fix you, because you have slid out of the frame, dude. You're too handsome for the frame. That's the problem. You're too hot for the frame. Let me fix this real quick. So dev, let's see, Discord, there we go. That's what I want. This little window right here. And then I'm going to, let's see, scale to window. Let's see here. Scale to output. There we go. And then I'm going to hold down the key there. And then I'm going to make you all pretty in there. There we go. And I actually fixed this very carefully, and then it unfixed itself because it's mean. I don't know. Isn't that just the way of computers? I know. I very carefully made sure it was perfect, and then the minute we go live, bam. But there you are. Yeah. That should fix it over here. There we are. And let me actually fix this preview so you guys can see me properly. See us all properly. There we go. There he is. Sorry, ladies, he's taken. Hello, Morgwin. It's 24% off on the Humble Bundle for the next 4 days, so grab it while you can. And that is absolutely the case. You can get it here on Steam, where we are live right now. And you can also get it on the Humble Bundle. The mods will be posting that link here and also in Steam. If one of the mods can throw that link into the Steam chat as well, too, that would be appreciated. Although, you know, we want you to buy it, you know, wherever you're comfortable. You can buy it right down below. Right there. All right. So, Francisco, hi.
Hello.
So, what have you been doing with yourself since you've, you know, just had, like, the leisure life? What you been doing?
I've been catching up on a lot of games that I wanted to play. I've been catching up on some reading. I've been just relaxing, enjoying the nice fall weather. It was actually like below 50 degrees today for the first time here in New York City, which is nice.
Oh, that's nice.
So yeah.
So where's your favorite place to walk in New York? Like, your neighborhood is Brooklyn-ish? Is that correct?
Yeah, I live in Brooklyn. I live in a nice little part of Brooklyn that's got a bunch of Victorian houses. It's like a little suburban pocket in the middle of Brooklyn, so it's nice to walk around and just admire the houses and see the leaves and all that stuff.
Changing that right now, Velest. Thank you very much. He'll keep talking and we'll change it until it is correct, okay? Thank you. So yeah, the fall leaves, because in the Pacific Northwest, we don't get a lot of the fall changing, so it must be really nice where you are. And you can just, you can just enjoy, but have you got a new game in mind?
What a leading question.
That's my job.
Yeah, I do have another game in mind. I've very, very, very slowly been doing a couple of just tests and things just to see how I feel comfortable with the next things I'm trying out. But there's absolutely nothing concrete yet, nothing I can show, and yeah, that's.
Oh, you haven't got a proof of concept to show us, to reveal for the first time on the Jessa Channel? A complete plot, a vertical slice, or whatever they call it?
No, that's at least 6 months away. So I'm just.
Well, my job is to put you on the hot seat and get you to feed our appetites for the next adventure.
That's fine. I'm just trying to get one room and like 1 or 2 characters done, so I can just show a screenshot to my publisher when I see them at Adventure X next month, just so I can be like, look, this is interesting, right? Do you want to publish this again? So
yeah, exactly. But you are happy with how things have gone with Lamplight City, is that correct?
I'm pretty happy, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my fear was always that it was only gonna sell 500 copies, and I don't want to get into specifics, but it's sold more than 500 copies.
You basically did not have your fear realized, is basically what you're saying.
I didn't, exactly.
You did not.
I did not.
So, and you went out and had a big old dinner, right? That you didn't invite me to, mind you. I was offended. A launch party.
We had a launch party. It wasn't a big dinner. It was a big launch party. Well, it wasn't even that big. It was a launch party with some drinks and some food and some fun times. So yeah. It was good. Yeah, it's really hard to believe it's been a month. Time flies. It feels like the release party was just like yesterday, but it wasn't.
No, it has been a month, and so and CEO, what is it that you're trying to share with me? You might have to repeat it, but I see all your messages, CEO. I see you. So in any case, does my we were having difficulty with my microphone last time, so could the mod team give me a sound check, please? I believe I have that fixed. Hopefully I do. There's a little bit of background audio coming in on the desktop, which is probably Francisco's background, but it should be very, very quiet. So everything should be okay. Let me know, please. Francisco is still on the soft side. Okay, it's that's the rumor. That's the rumor in the girls' bathroom. That is absolutely the rumor.
I thought you said this was a family stream.
I did, and I'm trying.
It's got the dirty mind.
I'm trying.
That's fair. That's fair.
Is that better? I have him up at 80 in comparison to me. Hopefully that is better. If not, let me know. I can also bring this. Actually, you know what? Let me bring this up here a little bit louder. And so, Francisco, are you ready to go in and send Miles into the gutter?
I'm ready.
Absolutely. Okay. So Francisco and I are going to be heading up to the top right corner here. And we are, look at us all cozied up like we're on the school bench at lunch. And we're going to throw the game up now. Thank you, Leah. Thank you for letting me know. Appreciate it so much. And let's get the game up in the background there. There we go. And I'm going to unmute the game now, and we're going to test the game volume. Should be fairly backgroundy to us, but still quite audible. If you want to say hello to us in chat, I see a lot of people in chat on Steam. Feel free to say hello. In fact, you know what? I'll start the ball rolling. I'll say hello to you guys. So say hello to me in Steam and as anywhere on the Jessa Channel, on Twitch, on YouTube, on Mixer, and on Steam. You'll be greeted warmly. All right, so let me have a sound check on the game, this beautiful music. How's that sound, everybody? The game should hopefully not be too loud. Let me know. And I'm going to leave the volume mixer up here. I have a lot of things going on my screen right now. I'll show you guys my screen. This is what I have going on. So we tried using Discord last time, and whereas the quality of the video is great, it didn't allow me to see Francisco like I have him here. Woo! So and that made it so that I felt a bit stilted. So yeah, we needed to go back to Skype because Discord is not ready for prime time. So I will lower this now. Let's go back straight into the game. Leah is saying welcome back to you on Twitch, Francisco. Francisco is in chat right now.
You.
He is on Twitch.
YouTube chat.
He's on YouTube chat.
Twitch chat.
But anything you type in YouTube will go to all the chats. So feel free to say hello. Now is also the time that you can ask questions to Francisco as well, too, about the game. We're going to be talking all about the game and how the game, you know, the background, the director's aspects of the game. We hear the music here. And I'm going to turn the music down just a little bit. I just want to make sure that it's not too loud, but still audible. So let's try that. Getting the balances right is something that we have to do. We have an autosave here. We had a lot of problems, so I was unable to save. I hope this will take us back to where we were. I hope so. Let's go ahead and load that up. Where we were heading was, we were at the Rhone, I believe it is, Francisco?
The
Rouen Coffee House. The description of the stream is for the game Pathfinder, not Lamplight City at the moment. Thank you, CO. On which platform? Here on YouTube? That should not be the case. Let me do a quick update of the titles. Thank you for letting me know. It should be Lamplight City everywhere. That's what I'm seeing here. Let me do you mean on Steam? On YouTube? That does not, let me just look and see what I can do about that. One moment, please, everyone. I'm just waiting for this to load. That's not what I'm seeing. I'll show you my desktop. Control-Alt-4. There we go. So is everyone else seeing that too? Oh, I see the description. The description. Oh, I see what you mean. It doesn't matter. We'll have to just, well, actually, you know what? Real quickly, let me quickly change that. But I don't think it matters too much right now. Because I don't want to stop the stream too much for this, but let me see if I can do it very quickly. Francisco, I'm going to put you up like that. And let's see if we can quickly change that. While we're doing that, I'm going to go back to the game. And you guys just talk amongst yourselves. And Leah is asking you a question while I'm doing this, Francisco, in chat. She's asking you, what are your favorite games to play? And have you ever played a Sims game?
Well, currently my favorite games to play are, I've pretty much transitioned into being purely a console gamer, and I have a PlayStation 4, so I've been playing. Yeah, I sort of had this weird, I don't know what word to use. This sort of weird, just kind of back and forth when I was growing up, because like my very first video game console was actually a Sega Master System. So I would play like the console Sega, and I had a Nintendo, and then I started playing Sega Genesis. And from Sega Genesis, the next console I got was a PlayStation 2. So in the interim, I used to play games on PC, but like I've never had like a really powerful gaming rig. So I've pretty much just relied on consoles to play all of the like AAA games. So anyway, that aside, I played through the new Spider-Man game, which I enjoyed a lot. I played Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, which I enjoyed quite a lot as well. I need to play The Last Guardian because that's still on my list, and I really want to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Origins, but I have not played Origins yet, so I need to catch up on that. And I'm really excited about Red Dead Redemption 2, which is coming out very soon. So yeah, I have a lot of games on my plate. And the other question was what am I playing now, and what's my
Do you play The Sims?
Oh, do I play? Oh, not anymore. Not anymore. I first played The Sims when I was in high school, The Sims 1. I was very excited about when that game came out. In fact, I had a friend of mine in my English class who also played The Sims, and we used to spend our English class being like, "Oh my God, you'll never believe what happened with Bella Goth. She died, and then this happened." And we would talk about our Sims like they were real people, and like our classmates were like, "Who are you talking about?" And we're like, "Oh, nobody." And then,
you guys, he's one of us. He's one of us.
I had to draw the line at The Sims 2 Open for Business. That was the last expansion pack I played because I sank so many hours into that game. It's actually funny because when before I went commercial and I was still making adventure games just like as a hobby, I made this series called Ben Jordan Paranormal Investigator. And there's one character who I killed off in the 7th game, and in order for me as a creator to deal emotionally with the loss, I actually created the 3 main characters in The Sims, and I killed him in this.
I've done that. I have done that.
Just so I could like deal with how to kill a fictional character, and so yes, I am one of you. If you are indeed Sims players,
Are we Sims players? Wow, he has no idea. He did it, you guys. He did it. He even knows Sul. Look, he did it.
I know. I have my secrets.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I actually really like you now. I really do.
I'm glad I passed the test.
Oh my goodness. So Leah, thank you so much for asking that, because it never would have occurred to me to ask if he was a simmer. That is so cool. Anyway, yeah, by the way, Francisco, if you have nothing else going on tomorrow, which you don't because you're a man of leisure, we're live simming tomorrow in my custom neighborhood, Kettle Falls. Same time tomorrow here, Twitch, Mixer, YouTube, same places. And those tend to be pretty rowdy.
In The Sims 4?
In The Sims 2.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. I don't play The Sims 4. We don't like The Sims 4.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah. So if you want to go back down memory lane, we have a completely custom hood.
Absolutely.
We have some incredible storylines going on. If you feel like you want to enjoy, it's really fun. And you guys tell them about simming. Tell them about some of the stuff that's going on in simming before we move on to actually playing the game. But yeah, we don't do Sims 4 here. We like Sims 2. And okay. So we have like a completely custom neighborhood, school, bank, toy store, new doctor in town. We have a lot of fun, and there should be probably, I'd guess 100 more people in here. It's really popular. It's the most popular game on my channel. And I'll get you rehooked, and Francisco will be emailing me.
That's what I'm worried about, is that I'll watch it and I'll be like, oh, I should reinstall The Sims 2. And then like 20 years later, I'll be like, wasn't I making another game?
I know I'll be responsible for you ending up like in the gutter like Miles. Some people though, this, like Celeste is saying, some people here like The Sims 4. I don't. But that doesn't mean, we just don't play it on the channel. But some people really enjoy it. I don't find it's as rich. But anyway, let's go on into the coffee house here. So this is where we were having a lot of trouble. This is Constance Upton. And she gave us a mission to head to someplace.
Yeah.
Help me out here.
She told us that this lady, Madame Dupre, had died, and during her funeral, she started knocking on her coffin, and it turned out that she had been presumed dead, almost buried alive. So a young man was accused of the crime, but Upton believes that he's innocent. And so our current case is to investigate the circumstances surrounding Madame Dupre's almost death, and see if it's true that this guy is innocent and prove his innocence. And so she gave us She told us that we could go talk to him at the jail, or we could go to his house, or we could go to the Dupre Manor. So that's the 3 places on our map currently, aside from the coffee house.
Okay, got it. I'm going to just move my chat over a little bit here so I have more room to click, as I have 2 chat windows open here to keep an eye on things. And I'm going to move you, say, there. There we go. So what we did then, I remember now, is we went over to the jail. And so I just want to make sure, since we only have an autosave here, that we actually did that. That we actually talked to him. In other words, that got saved. So this is the man who has...
we were in the middle of conversation with Albert Martin when we started having problems.
Lovely to see
Yeah.
you
But
too.
this
Yeah.
is the first... Yeah, it didn't register that we went here because... this is the introductory dialogue.
You'd quit being a detective.
I'm looking to speak with Mr. Albert Martin.
Oh, I see. Well, that's him in the first cell there. I'd say what needs saying as quick as you can, though. He's headed for the gallows in the morning.
What? Already? Well, what about a trial?
No trial necessary when there's black magic involved. This little half-breed's already sealed his fate.
Such a charming fellow, isn't he?
So for those of you guys coming in, the person that we are hearing there, such a charming fellow, is Bill. Bill is Miles' partner, and that's the whole crux of the matter. Bill died while Miles and Bill were on a case, and therefore Bill is now in Miles' head. Underneath that beautiful coiffure of his is Bill's disembodied voice. Did you see that tweet that I put out? Somebody said the 5 best things about Lamplight City.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. The 5 best characters, and number 4 was Miles's hair, and number 5 was Miles.
Exactly. And so I responded to that, and I said, au contraire. All of them is Miles's hair. Miles' hair is the best thing in this whole game. And Miles knows it. Yeah. So I hear CEO is asked you a question here in chat that I want to get to here. And I will turn the game up. Absolutely. So the game is a bit quiet, so let's go to about there. And when we next talk, keep letting me know and we'll get it sorted. So CEO said, Francisco, have you or Jessa played Unavowed? I have not. Francisco? Yep. What'd you think about it?
I enjoyed it. It was a good game.
Okay. Well, that's pretty much all he has to share on it. He's a man of few words.
Well, no, I mean, I liked it. You know, I'll admit urban fantasy is not really my thing, but
Yeah.
I mean, I liked it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird because like I've played it in several phases as it was going through development, because obviously I used to work with Wadjet, and so I, knew what was going on, and I really good friends with the artist Ben Chandler, so like it's kind of weird when you play your friends' projects. Because it's like you're playing them and then you don't really get the full experience like when they're finished. I don't know, it's kind of weird, but anyway, yeah, no, I played Unavowed. I enjoyed it.
He's like, okay, that's all I got to share, so that's fine. I'm like, alrighty then.
I don't feel like I have anything new to add to the conversation. I mean, everybody,
okay,
it's gotten pretty universal acclaim.
It has. And well deserved, I think. It's very, very, I mean, from what I have seen of it, because I haven't played it, but I've still watched content of it. And, he's just really good. Oh, goodness. The man who created it, I forget his name right now. I talked to him on Twitter. Dave Gilbert. Yeah. Anyway, he's been making so many games, but this one he really knocked out of the park. And from what I understand, it's very rich as the story and lots of different things that can happen. But we are focused on Lamplight City, but there's the answer to your question, CEO. Let's go ahead and see how the voices are now by talking to Albert Martin. He is suspected of the murder or attempted murder of The woman whose name I can't remember because, gosh darn it.
Madame Dupre.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're here, because otherwise this would be terrible and suck.
Mr. Martin?
Who are you? My lawyer?
No, I'm actually here to help you. The name's Miles Fordham. I'm a private investigator.
How are you going to help me?
I'm looking into the attack on Madame Dupre. I believe you're innocent.
Oh, thank heaven. That's music to my ears.
Do you mind answering a few questions for me?
Friend, if it means saving me from the noose, I'll tell you nothing less than God's truth.
Interesting choice of phrase for someone accused of using black magic.
I like the way you drew this guy's mouth. It's pretty cool. He has his mouth looks similar to yours. I really, I see people say that, but I really do think you put a little bit of yourself in each of the characters. Did you do that on purpose?
No. Do you want to know who I used? Do you want to know who I used as inspiration for
yes.
Albert Martin?
Yes, I do.
Do you know the actor Wentworth Miller from Prison Break?
No, I do not.
Well, I used his eyes, and I actually used Barack Obama's nose and mouth. So. So that's our former president's nose and mouth.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Did you tell him? Did you say, dear Mr. President, I have used your nose and mouth for my game. They're very attractive. I appreciate it very much. I sold a lot of copies and because of your nose and mouth, so thank you very much. Love, Francisco.
I didn't, but maybe I will.
So, and Leah is saying that's the kind of interesting stuff that we're here for. We want to hear that kind of really interesting background stuff that, I mean, I never would have known that. I really would not have known that. So when you say you used his nose and mouth, did you take a picture?
Well, yeah, what I do usually is I'll get like a reference photo of a person, but if I want to, obviously the issue is I don't want to make an exact likeness of people, because then people will say, oh, that's so and so, that's so and so. Like sometimes I get away with it if it's just like a stock photo from Google Image, but if I use like well-known actor, I don't want people to be like, oh, that's actor X. So what I'll do is I'll take one or more or two or more photos, and I'll just do a really crappy copy paste job, just generally speaking, of like in the like more or less the correct position, so that it sort of creates this chimera of person, so it doesn't look like any one person in particular. Like with Miles, that's pretty cool. Everybody thinks it looks like me, but honestly, Miles's eyes are based on Neil Gaiman. His mouth, I forget who I used, and his hair is former professor of my girlfriend's at Parsons. So he's also a chimera, but he's not me. It's just, I don't know what it is. I guess it's just the eyebrows and the nose kind of look the same. My next character, I'm going to have to make like a bleach blonde, just like, well, never mind. Let's not get into too many spoiler territories here.
Spoilers. Spoiler alert, guys. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
So, I'm turning him up again, and let me move this to here so I can quickly move down. Move that there. So, I'm still getting messages to turn up Francisco, because we want that full Francisco experience. And I'm doing so now. All right, so we're back in game. Let's go ahead and ask him about Madame Dupré.
What can you tell me about Madame Dupré?
Okay, I was right.
She's a twisted, evil woman who got what was coming to her. Whoever attacked her deserves some sort of reward for the service they're doing the community.
So it wasn't you then?
No, I'm innocent, Mr. Fordham. You have to believe me.
I'm afraid you're not making that very easy right now, Mr. Martin.
I don't know. Why wouldn't I believe him? He looks pretty believable. I don't know. So, Miles rubs his hair through it. He just rubs his hands through his hair a little bit. He shakes it free. And then he says, let's ask about this, death of Madame Dupré.
Do you know anything about the circumstances of Madame Dupre's supposed death?
No, I had nothing to do with it.
Then why did her son accuse you?
Probably because he's just as ignorant as she is.
What I meant was, how did her son know to accuse you? Have you had any contact with the family before?
Yes, you could say that.
Here's where we get to the crux of it. That gleam in his eye.
Says it all.
You see,
Says it all.
I'm involved with Dupre's daughter, Juliet Montgomery. Dupre doesn't like that one bit. She even threatened me once.
Is that right?
Yes. She might have everyone else fooled, but that woman is the devil incarnate. I can't understand how something so heartless and cruel could have spawned someone as pure and, loving as my dear Juliet.
He's not
Blink,
really
blink.
helping his case much, is he?
So a question here, why does Miles not believe him? Does he look shifty, or is he supposed to look shiftier than he is, Francisco?
No, I think it's mainly because when he asks him, are you, tell me about Madame Dupre, and he flat out starts saying all these horrible things about her, he's understandably upset, but, I mean, it's kind of the logic of if he's innocent, he's not going to flat out say, yeah, I'm glad she got what was coming to her, whatever.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
I got it.
Yeah.
So, you have a thing going on with Juliet, asks Miles.
Tell me about Juliet.
She's wonderful. Such a beautiful, kind soul. She hasn't come to see me yet, but I'm sure that's because of all the confusion in the last few days. Juliet wouldn't believe for a second that I would be capable of harming her mother. I'm sure of it.
How did you two get involved?
We met at the university.
Your classmates?
Hardly. They wouldn't allow someone like me to enroll there. Juliet studies botany. I work as an assistant in the greenhouse. We started talking, and she actually treated me like a person. To everyone else, I was just the boy who fetched the test tubes. But Juliet actually wanted to hear what I had to say. Had the same taste in books and art. Didn't just treat me like some piece of gardening equipment. She even shared some of her notes with me after I told her I was interested in botany as well. From there, things just got better. I don't expect you to understand or approve, but that's how it happened.
Oh, you'd be surprised. It doesn't sound too different to how my wife and I got together. Except I was a detective and she was a singer at a bar.
And she's...
Yes, Mr. Martin. Anyway, back to the matter at hand. How often is Juliet in the greenhouse?
Every weekday, but I doubt she's there now. She's probably trying to find out where I am and working to have me released.
Somehow, I wouldn't bet on that.
Why not? Why wouldn't she be working to have him released? Well, we'll find out. So I don't know. There's a lot of a feel of racism in here with this.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of racism. So tell me about racism in this particular world, in this time that you've done here.
Yeah, so obviously the game is set in 1844, and even though it's an alternate history, sort of steampunky world, I felt it would be both just a disservice and also just completely silly if I glossed over, social issues of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, even though there's advanced technology, that's not going to be a magical cure for racism. I mean, that's the fact is that this is what, this is how things were back then. Women couldn't vote, people of color couldn't vote. They had very few rights. So I had, I incorporated it into the world and the story. I mean, basically, the only reason that this man stands accused of the crime is because he comes from a family that, well, I mean, you'll find out if you talk to him a little bit more, but it's basically because of his race and his beliefs. So I felt it would, I mean, I didn't want to get on a soapbox and preach or anything, but I felt it was important to portray these sorts of things in the game. Issues of racism and sexism and class struggles and stuff like that. Because I mean, it's important to talk about, and I didn't want to beat people over the head with it. Actually, I actually had to dial back a little bit in this case because originally the setup was that slavery had just been recently abolished, like a couple of years before. And so Madame Dupre was still employing her former slaves as her servants and paying them now.
Yeah.
But some of the testers thought that there was a little bit too much going on, you know, so too many like heavy things to deal with. So I dialed it back a little bit and made it so that she hires people. She hires people rather than using machines to do her housework. So she's seen as this sort of philanthropist because she hires actual people to do her work. And that was mostly because, you know, it kind of brought forward the whole like steampunk angle and didn't really, you know, because really this is, I mean, we see it throughout the game, but this is the case where it's like at the forefront. So I thought it was important to keep it in, but I thought it was probably a good idea to just not be like, you know, hit you over the head with it a little too much. So
yeah. Exactly.
But so, I mean, it's gotten, I've seen several articles and reviews and stuff that have how the game handles these issues, and I admit it's a very fine line to walk, and it's tricky to get right. So I hope that what I did was, you know, not a terrible thing.
I can tell you that as a African American person, I can speak for all other African American people and say that we had a meeting, we discussed it, and we feel, you know, we feel pretty good with how you represented here. Okay. We did also have a vote, and I have to bring the donuts next week. That's a bummer.
Okay. Well,
but otherwise, yeah. Well, no, seriously though, that Mr. Bunny is saying something. He's saying that Mr. Bunny has thoughts to share. I love saying that. It's like Mr. Bunny has some thought-provoking analysis to share with us. But seriously, he says that's very brave to do, and he says that's a very fine line and complicated to implement.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, but I'm glad that you kept it in. I'm glad that you didn't gloss it over. I love Agatha Christie very much, and I've played numerous games of hers. But you know, representation of African American people, or African people at all, not even American, just darker skin of any sort, is just underrepresented is an underrepresented is an overstatement basically there. So let's go ahead and talk about himself. Actually, let's ask him.
How did you end up in here?
I was just minding my own business at home when the police showed up with no warning. They made some outrageous claims about me putting some sort of curse on Madame Dupre. The next thing I knew, I was here. Oh, Mama must be beside herself with worry. I just hope she's all right.
So I just want to tell you that Francisco, the way we have this set up, unfortunately, unless he listens to the live stream in which there's a delay from the real-time Skype, he can't hear the game. But since he wrote the game, he knows pretty much what everything sounds like by heart. Yep. So, let's ask about his mother.
What does your mother do, Mr. Martin?
She helps people.
I was hoping you'd be just a bit more specific.
She provides spiritual help to those who seek guidance.
She's a spiritualist.
Not quite. She's more like...
Chicken blood!
Explain it. You know how a priest holds mass to spread the word of God to the people? My mother holds services and calls on the spirits to walk among us, providing healing and guidance.
So she's a religious leader?
If you want to give her that title, it would be the most appropriate.
And does this religion of yours have a name?
Voodoo!
You'd probably know it as...
called it!
Voodoo, but it doesn't mean what you think it does. People are so quick to judge and portray us as evil when they have no idea.
CEO, that was beautiful. CEO put in chat, CEO said, overrepresentation is an understatement. Deep thought for today. Thank you, and good night. Anyway, so let's find out more about this this voodoo.
So you practice voodoo, do you?
Are you making fun of me, Mr. Fordham?
No, of course not. Apologies if it seemed as though I was. It's just that the police are convinced that black magic was involved in Madame Dupre's apparent death.
That's because that idiot son of hers knew about my mother, and like all bigoted fools, assumed that we're involved in devil worship and the black arts. But I can assure you that this is most certainly not the case, Mr. Fordham.
Of course, I didn't mean to imply.
Just forget it.
That's all for now.
Oh, wait,
He's a
before
bit
you
touchy.
go, would you do me a favor? Would you go see my mother at our house and give her a message?
You're at 451 Compton Street, right?
Yes, that's right. Could you tell her I said St. Rock's dog is barking?
I suppose I could do that, yes.
Code word.
Thank you.
Whatever happened to a simple I love you?
All right, Bill. Hush up. St. Rock's bog. St. Rock's dog is barking. Interesting. CO, if you have hair like Miles, then you know, I really appreciate you even more. Let's talk to the goalkeeper. Jail keeper.
He's watching you like a hawk. Looks liable to toss you in one of his cells if you try any funny business.
And also, since we did have trouble last week, let's learn from our mistakes and do the most important.
Well, the game does autosave every time you enter the map, so you don't necessarily, I mean, you don't have to, like, compulsively save.
Oh, okay, good. All right.
But it helped. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, well, here's a question, though. I mean, can this game crash? Can an adventure game, studio game crash?
I mean, oh, sure, they can crash. But hopefully hopefully all the bugs that would cause it to crash have been fixed.
Now, tell me about the patches, though. So many people have to do with games that release, you know, do so many day one patches. We were talking about Pathfinder Kingmaker, which we are playing, also here on the Jessa Channel, and they have had a very embarrassing time of it. They're putting out patches, sometimes 2 a day, you know, 3 a day, patch 801A in the morning, 801B in the afternoon. I mean, seriously, that is how they're doing. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, did you have to put out a lot of patches for bugs?
I had to put out a few, yeah, because I mean, as much beta testing as you do, there's always going to be some bugs that slip through the cracks. I'm trying to think what the most. I think there was one bug in this case actually where, if you did things in a very specific order, you couldn't declare the case unsolvable, but all of your leads were closed off, so you were literally at a dead end. It had to do with the counter, because there's like a little internal counter every time you screw up a lead that adds to your, you know, failure counter. And I was checking it to be at 3, and it was possible if you did things in a specific order to have it go up to 4. So,
okay.
So I had to add one line of code, which was a greater than symbol, which was, you know, if failure case 1 is greater than or equal to 3, then trigger the unsolvable case state. That was one of the bugs that we had to patch. But yeah, patching AGS games is tricky because as long as you do things that are just in code, it's fine. But if you have to do anything where you have to like add like an animation frame or a sound effect or a music track or any sort of asset like that, it renders all previous save games incompatible. So you have to be very careful about what you patch in these games, because if people have already been playing it, they get upset about having to start from the beginning.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So chat, question for you. Should we go and visit Albert's mother, who's in the jail now, and give her the secret code message? Or should we go and view the woman who was almost buried alive? What do you think? AGS is Adventure Game Studio, the tool that was used to build this game and all of your games. Is that correct, Francisco?
That is correct.
Yeah. So also, Francisco, a question here for you from Crafter is asking, They didn't do autopsies during this time. She's wondering if they did autopsies during this time frame, if you know that.
Yeah, as far as I know, they did. Yeah.
Okay. And so is there a possibility to attend an autopsy or during this particular game, or have you ever put an autopsy in your game?
There is. In the third case, you do get to visit the third and fourth case. You do get to visit the police mortuary, and while you don't participate actively in an autopsy, you do get to talk to the coroner and hear about his post-mortem exams and things like that.
So CO wants to go and see the buried alive woman. Crafter does too, so that's what we're going to do.
You are aware this is private property, sir?
I don't care.
Yes, I'm Miles Fordham, private investigator. I'm looking into the incident involving Madame Dupre. I assume this is she?
You assume correctly, Mr. Fordham. My apologies, but I thought the police had already made an arrest.
That's right, but there's still some doubt as to the man's guilt. May I ask your name, sir?
I am Dr. Fellows, Madame Dupre's private physician. I'm afraid she is in no state to be answering questions at present.
Are any other members of the family home?
Her son, Mr. Montgomery, is in the entrance hall. I had to give him a mild sedative to settle his nerves, but he should be all right to converse.
Then if you don't mind, I'll have a look around.
I do mind, but we're going to do it anyway. That's what he says. So this is Dr. Fellows, and I'm just going to say he's guilty as the day is long. Look at that dude. Look at that nose. That is one guilty schnoz right there.
Is it because he lies and it grows?
Exactly. Look at that. It's like so magnificently, powerfully guilty. What do you guys think? This dude did it. And he used some sort of medicine, you know, to make her sleepy, put her in the casket, you know, thinking that, you know, and then he blamed it on the poor, darker skinned man. Anyway, we can look at Madame Dupre. Unfortunately, we can't talk to her. Let's take a look at her. Miles doing his stretches.
Her eyes are glazed over, and she's got a vacant, expressionless stare. She seems completely oblivious to her surroundings. If we didn't know she'd been buried alive, I'd say she was just exhibiting the typical symptoms of your average rich person.
Bill, that was cold-blooded. We can look at different things here.
This fountain probably looked nicer when it was working, but right now it's just a breeding ground for mosquitoes.
Okay. And
With her vast
since
sums of wealth, Madame Dupre could probably feed a starving family for the next 30 years. Instead, she uses the money to keep her hedges trimmed. I
like Bill's delivery. It's nice. So since I always try and look at everything because you spent time putting all this in here for us to look at. So once again, as I said, we've said in previous live streams with Francisco, he drew this, you guys. He drew this, what we're looking at.
I did draw that.
He did. So, the next time that, you know, you wake up and you're like, you know, I'm feeling kind of tired, I don't feel like doing much, I might sit around, you know, on my butt and play The Sims. Just think that Francisco drew this! And then get up and go clean your house!
While you're at it, come clean mine.
Yeah! I think that's all there is to look at on this particular scene. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's only a few hot spots in this scene.
Yeah, okay.
Also, I think I understand what Crafter is saying in the chat. As far as so Madame Dupre was buried alive, and Crafter was saying, didn't they do autopsies? Yeah, they did, but I mean, in this case, I would think, you know, an autopsy is usually performed if there's some doubt as to, like, he's saying Crafter's saying, why didn't they do an autopsy of Madame Dupre if they thought that she was dead?
Yeah, that's true.
Autopsies, I mean, normally are done if there's some sort of uncertainty or question about why the person or how the person died. So, I mean, if in this case, if she drops dead and the son says, it was that guy, he did black magic, it's pretty much open and shut case. I don't think they would have asked to do an autopsy. So, that's my headcanon reason for why they didn't perform one on Madame Dupre.
And Leah has an important question to ask. She'd like to know if you drew this. She's unclear.
I'm not wrong. It was actually a team of 13 trained pigeons, which I fed birdseed to regularly, and they drew this background in a matter of minutes. It was fantastic.
If you listen very carefully in the background, you can hear his pigeon army cheeping as he plans to take over New York City with his trained, and he's gonna be like Pigeon Man. You know, there's Spider-Man.
Oh boy.
There could be Pigeon Man, Pigeon Dude, and he's gonna go out and shut crime, deal with crime. That's funny. All right, so let's go and talk to the son who probably did it. Guilty as sin. The day is long, etc., etc. Oh, look at this punk.
Oh, hello. Are you the new servant? No, I'm Miles Fordham. I'm a private investigator looking into your mother's attempted murder.
How did you know I was her son? Oh, of course. You must have sensed it with your detective's intuition. I should have guessed by that giant head of yours.
Are you feeling all right, Mr. Montgomery?
Yes, I'm fine. Much better than when those pesky police officers were snooping around earlier. But I like you, Mr. Fordham. I can already tell you're not like them at all. Please, call me Andrew.
Yes, well, I'll have a look around, and I may need to ask you some questions. Do you think you can handle that?
I can. In fact, I really look forward to it.
If the good doctor gave him a mild sedative, I'd hate to see what the stuff you take would have done to him.
Brother's been smoking. That's all I can say. So, voice acting. We're getting a lot of compliments on the voice acting. And so, one of the things I found playing games, I will admit, that's why I'm on this side of the microphone and you're on that side. I've never made a game in my life. So, I don't know anything about the process of choosing the voice actors. And particularly, I think what you can pick really good voice actors, but if you don't have good voice direction, they can't deliver because they have no concept. They don't know what they're gonna. They don't know where their character's gonna be in the game. They haven't seen the game. The game isn't ready. Is that correct? So how do you give them direction? Do you say you're gonna be a half-stoned, lazy, rich, no good layabout in his waistcoats, plaid slacks, sporting dude? And so could you just like emote that?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, how in depth do you want me to get?
In depth. How in depth do you guys want to get? I want to learn. That's what you're here for.
So
Go ahead.
Basically, yeah, I mean, the process specifically for this game and the way I've done it for all the other games is working with a casting director locally here in New York. Her name's Shelly Shenoy. She's a voice actress as well as, or actor, I believe is the correct term. She's a voice actor as well as a casting director. So yeah, I've worked with her on all three of my games. I met her via Dave Gilbert and Wadjet Eye because he's worked with her as well. So she, in addition to that, she teaches a voice acting class. I've actually taken her class a few times. I have to get back into it because making this game took away my free time, and so I haven't done it for about a year. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point is, she works with us, and so what I do is she has me draft up a casting document in which I do like a sample of, let's say, 4 male characters, 4 female characters, and I try and get a nice range to kind of pick actors from, because this game was a special case because there's about 70 speaking roles. And
really?
Yeah, there's 70 speaking roles, and so I knew that we were gonna have to either get a really big cast, which would have been expensive, or we were gonna have to like get a mid-sized cast of people who were gonna have to split up a lot of roles. Yeah, the way that the game is structured into the different cases was good because it meant that each actor could play like one character per case and not have it seem like you were just talking to the same 4 people every single time. And so, yeah, basically I just kind of, I had several actors in mind who I had worked with before and I wanted to work with again. But I also did the audition document, and you know, you prepare some sample lines, you send them out, and then Shelly listened to the auditions, and she sent me the auditions, and then I, from those, picked the actors that I wanted. So we ended up with about 19 actors total. Most of them split about, like, each one had about 4 to 5 roles. In some cases they had 6. But the 4 main actors, Miles, Bill, Addie, and Upton, they each had just the one character because they had the most lines. Yeah, so then when we recorded in the studio, I was directing. I had an engineer who was also, well, my composer, Mark, did half the engineering. Another friend who rented us the studio did the other engineering, or the other half of the engineering. So I didn't have to worry about any of the technical aspects, which was nice because that was a huge relief. So yeah, I pretty much just did all the directing. So what I would do was I would just give them a very brief description of the character, because you don't want to give too much information because that can bog down the performance, and if they have too much in their head, you know, basically like with this guy, it was just like, well, you know, he's a spoiled rich kid who's on drugs, and that's all you really need to know. Yeah, exactly. So like, yeah, usually it was pretty straightforward. I mean, I would read Miles's lines or whatever other characters' lines. I would read them to kind of give them something to play off of. And then we would just go through each sequence twice, and if there was anything that needed changing or any sort of emphasis that I wanted to change, I would just say, can we do that one line again, but a little bit more like, you know, sarcastic, or a little bit more like you're secretly, you're saying this but you really mean this, that sort of thing. Because one of the things that I took to heart, there's this great GDC talk on YouTube actually about directing voiceover. One of the things that they tell you never ever ever to do is to do just a line read unless it's absolutely necessary.
What's a line read? Just a line read.
Where you just say, okay, could you do this line again but read it like this, and then you perform it. Because it's like, it's kind of patronizing and kind of insulting to the actor. So it's just like for extreme cases where if they're just not getting it despite the direction that you're doing, if you know, the most I would be willing to be like, could you say that again, but like emphasize the word the, you know, maybe the thing that we need, whatever. So yeah, that's kind of the basic rundown of voice directing. But voice directing and doing the voice stuff is like the most fun part of the game, because one, it's great fun to work with the actors, and two, to finally hear the lines that you've written and read 800 billion times actually come to life and hear how they sound. It's just really rewarding and really exciting. And sometimes you hear them out loud and you're like, oh God, that doesn't sound good at all. Quick,
no, yeah, exactly. And so do you go back and rewrite some of them the night, you know, after the person's recorded some and you're just like, I cannot stand that one line or these 4 lines, and do you go home and rewrite them and the next day in the studio ask them to redo them or something? Or do you just stick with it and deal?
No, that only happened like once or twice, because I was working with a dialogue editor, and sometimes I got some changes like after we had recorded some stuff, so there was a few lines that we went back and re-recorded, but generally it was just like, oh, I don't like how this sounds, let's just change it to this, and then I would make a note of it and I would just change it in game. And
okay,
yeah.
So a lot of games, one of the things that, you know, I hate to throw Pathfinder Kingmaker under the bus, but why not? That is that it's a game, and even with like Divinity Original Sin 1, the first one, those games were both released with partial voice acting, because one of the things that is said is that voice acting is prohibitively expensive. So with those games that are selling, you know, many more units and selling them at $49, you know, or $39, your game has a much smaller budget, much smaller units sold. So how do you afford those? How do you afford 17, 18, how many other actors, and still make money yourself on a game that is so much smaller in scale and have full voice acting, which is so impressive?
Well, there's a few things to consider. One is that a game like Pathfinder Kingmaker probably has significantly more lines of dialogue than my game does.
Okay.
Because just the scope of an RPG, you meet way more characters. There's a lot more reading. I totally understand why RPGs do that. Because if you were to voice, like, I mean, one of the classic examples is Planescape Torment.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of it is voiced, but I've heard it said that it's the equivalent of like maybe 10 novels or something like that.
It's huge as far as text.
It's huge. Yeah, so voicing that would be ridiculous if you voiced every single line in that. Admittedly, Lamplight City is probably the biggest game I've done in terms of dialogue. Well, it's the biggest game I've done in general, but it's definitely got the most lines of dialogue. But in the end, I think it was about 8,350 lines of dialogue total, which sounds like a lot, but it's not a crazy amount. It's not like, 50,000 lines of dialogue or anything like that. So it's still feasible. And the other thing is, there's the whole issue of union actors versus non-union actors.
Yeah.
If you use union actors, you're more likely to get super professional, like in and out, do 20 pages in like 20 minutes type things. But the cost goes up exponentially. So if you if you have like one union actor in your game, you have to use all union actors in your game. You can't just use like one and that's it. It's all or nothing. It's an all or nothing situation.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you use non-union actors, there's a lot of great non-union actors. I mean, everybody in this game was non-union, and there's some great performances in this game. Like
there are.
I would fully expect them to be like union actors.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, overall, I think everybody in this game did a really good job. Like there are some performances that are better than others, but I mean that's kind of to be expected.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, like I think the quality is good, and there was actually quite a few actors in here who turned in great performances, and it was their first game gig. Like they had done commercials and they had done other stuff, but they had never done a video game. So yeah, so that was it's cool to like work with people and give them new opportunities and stuff like that. But yeah, like our budget for voice acting was $10,000, and so that's
not very much, I take it.
It's not a huge amount in the grand scheme of things. It's kind of on the higher end for an indie game, but given that like the two biggest costs in production for this game were the voice acting and the music, it actually helped keep the budget very low. Because like one of the advantages of me doing everything was that I don't have to pay myself to do the art or anything like that. So I could afford to get a little bit bigger with like the other stuff. So yeah, like it kept the costs low, which is good because that means that the game doesn't have to sell like 10,000 copies just to break even.
Yeah.
Because I mean, let's be realistic. It's a low res niche adventure game. It's not going to sell as many copies as a game like Pathfinder Kingmaker.
I understand.
So to have a huge crazy budget is just asking for trouble.
Exactly.
You have to kind of know to work within your means, and so I try and do the best I can. Like would I I would love to be able to cast union actors and pay union rates, but I can't. So
you do the best you can.
And I think that even not to diminish it or anything, I still think that like even not using using non-union actors and doing that, it came out fine. Like
it did. This is my honest feeling on it. You can tell. I would not have. I don't know anything about non-union, union, all of that you just shared with us, which was very interesting. I just go by how I feel when I'm playing the game. Does this feel like good voice acting? Does it sound good? And I would not have. I thought this was high quality voice acting. I thought it was great. I didn't see any problem with it. Question from Mr. Bunny here. Mr. Bunny is a regular at the Jessa Channel. And by the way, they're saying that I do good voice acting as well too. But a problem with that, guys, I'd have to pack up and go to New York to be in Francisco and sleep on Francisco's couch. And just to be in his game. But I am, and I've told you guys that I am in Shape-Shifting Detective as a voice actor. So we're getting there. We're getting there. And maybe one day I might be able to be in one of Francisco's games. So Mr. Bunny asked a question here a couple minutes back. He said, was there a moment so frustrating that you almost thought of giving up on developing the game?
There's always a moment like that in every game. No, because I mean, there were some. This game more than others was kind of a roller coaster ride as far as the development process, because there was just when I started pre-production on this game, I was still a full-time employee at Wadjet, and then unfortunately I was laid off. But I mean, I still figured, that's fine. Like, I was still told that it was, still going to be published by them.
Yeah.
And then later on, we decided that that wasn't going to be the case, and so I had to spend about 6 months searching for another publisher, and the future of the game was up in the air for a while, and that was pretty stressful and kind of nerve-wracking. Mm-hmm. But I never felt like, well, I'm just going to stop working on this game. If anything, it kind of encouraged me to push and be like, I gotta get this game finished. I've put a lot into it. It's, I want it to be ready. So yeah, but I never considered just like throwing up my hands and being like, no, that's it.
That's what I was considering, how to broach the subject of why Wadjet, who's previously published your other games, was not doing this game. But I was unsure if there was something perhaps, a bit too private to talk about.
Not really. It essentially came down to, so Dave
work that hair,
said,
Miles. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What was I going to say? Oh, Dave has always said, and I've always respected his stance on this, he's always said that the games he publishes are the kinds of games that he himself would want to play. And the direction I was taking this game didn't quite fit in line with the direction he had in mind, and he felt that the kinds of changes he would have asked me to make would have not done the game justice, and I was like, yeah, I get it. That's fine. So yeah,
it was a parting of the creative vision, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. It was creative differences, essentially.
Yeah, basically.
And I respected that, like, the fact that he was willing to say, well, rather than be like, no, you have to change this, I'm not going to publish it unless you do this, instead saying, well, I think that the game is fine, it's just not something that I'm really interested in publishing. And I mean, he had a lot on his plate anyway with Unavowed, so I can see why he probably didn't want to take on also the stress of having another game to worry about publishing.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So we have one more question in chat, and then we'll move on with the story. And that is, Morgwin is asking, did you do the art for Wadjet games? So I guess also, what did you do? What did you do at Wadjet?
Well, Wadjet published my first game, which was a Golden Wake, and like Lamplight City, I did everything on that game. I did the art and the animation and programming and everything on that one. And then Shardlight was basically, I came up with the concept of the game and I wrote it and designed it, but I was working, like when I first came up with the idea, it was in about 2013 or so. And so I was talking with Ben Chandler, who went on to become the full-time artist for Wadjet. And so we were both thinking about making this game together, But then in the interim, Ben got hired as Wadjedai's full-time artist. So Dave had published a Golden Wake, and he was kind of like, well, you guys are thinking of making this game Shardlight. Like, how are we going to handle this? Because Ben is my full-time artist. So is this going to be like a publishing thing, or is it this? So he just decided to hire me on as a full-time developer, and that's how we did it. So essentially I got paid a salary instead of getting royalties for the game.
Yeah, I understand. Yep.
Yeah. So that's how it went.
Okay, well,
but yeah, Ben did the art for Shardlight, and I just did the writing and the design and the programming and everything.
Yeah. And you know, when I first met you in the first moment of our first live stream, I said I have the box art for a Golden Wake, and you said it didn't come out in a box version, and that has bugged me. Honestly, bugged me, because I have a distinct memory of game art similar to yours in a boxed version, because I used to collect box versions back in the, back in the day, and I thought I have that game. But none of your games have been sold actually in stores, correct?
Nope. No, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the last boxed game that Wadjedai did was Resonance, which was back in 2012.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so they're encouraging me to look at the parrot.
Beautiful parrot. Must have cost the Dupreys a cool copper.
I didn't know parrots were expensive. Hey, little guy. Who's a pretty bird? Who's a pretty bird? You little pretty you are.
Who's a pretty bird?
Ray's a pretty bird.
So, which voice actor did you pick for this?
Myself.
No way! I was gonna ask you later on if you had done cameos. Hey, you guys, look at Francisco. Want to hear Francisco? Listen. Let's turn this up. This is
You're
good.
already
This is
hearing
good.
me now.
I know, but I want to hear you as a parrot, because you're gonna take over New York. I told you.
I'm gonna be the Birdman of New York.
You're the Birdman of New York. Here we go.
boy.
Here's Francisco. Here we go.
Polly, want a cracker?
No, thank you.
I'll give you $1 if you say that right now. Come on, do it. Come on, I'll give you $2. I promise.
I'll do you one better. Do you want to hear me do it as the parrot from Aladdin?
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Because I